Welcome everybody to the last day of the GCWC at the Water Cube in Beijing, China. Today we're going to crown a champion, but before we're going to head into the last match of the day, the grand final, we have one more match for you guys, and that's going to be the rematch between Dignitas and Ballistics.
They faced twice so far in this tournament. In the group stage, of course, Dignitas won 2-0 against Ballistics. Then, in the upper bracket of the knockout phase, Ballistics came out on top with a 3-2 score.
A really close match at that kind though, and especially the last map was so close. Dignitas could have taken it, but Ballistics was a bit better. Then again, when we're looking at their games yesterday, Dignitas with a much better performance overall. Ballistics definitely struggling against KSV Black, so we're going to find out today if Ballistics comes out swinging or if Dignitas can carry the momentum from yesterday's match and take them out.
Yeah, if you were just to put yesterday's Dignitas against yesterday's Ballistics, you would expect Dignitas to come out on top. But today's a new day, a new rest and a new encounter, and we expect Ballistics to be performing better today. So we're in for a very close match, I think.
Yeah, and yesterday it really seemed that especially the ban pattern on the side of KSV Black really hurt Ballistics. Banning out Tyrael over and over again was something I feel it was expected in one or two games, considering how much Ballistics focus on Tyrael, but I personally did not think that Ballistics would have so much trouble when Tyrael is always banned out against them.
Yeah, it actually reminds me a lot of the BlizzCon 2015, where Dignitas and Cloud9 played against each other, and Tyrael was like the secret weapon for the European teams that were there, and as soon as Tyrael got permanently banned, that secret weapon was gone, and Cloud9 was able to be more comfortable into that final. So it was a strategy that they adopted to great success. Yesterday, KSV did the same thing against Ballistics, and maybe they were caught unawares. But the interesting thing here, I think the drafts are going to take a special level of depth between these two teams, because we've come to the point where the final three best teams are remaining, and both teams have a lot of secret weapons, which we will go into as soon as the drafting begins. But that Tyrael pick specifically, alongside maybe with his best buddy Genji, is hotly contested between these two teams.
Yeah, that's definitely something to... I feel it comes down who has the first pick on the maps if he makes it through the ban phase. I would be surprised if Dignitas does not at least try to emulate what KSV Black did yesterday. But at the same time, I feel for Ballistics in particular, it becomes really difficult to see how they can possibly have a good ban strategy against Dignitas, because Dignitas changed their drafting a lot against Fnatic. Very high priority on Arthurs, way higher than they had before in the tournament. Picking Stitches, for example, all of a sudden prioritizing Vala as well, a hero that they played before but never really showed a lot of willingness to go into right away. They very much dominated with Greymane. They had a lot of other assassins that they threw out, but Vala was not really one of the key heroes they used before. And so at this point, how does Ballistics react to that? I think from their perspective, it's really difficult to see what they can possibly ban and where Dignitas has their strengths now.
Yeah, and you know, there's a few other heroes that will probably, I think, rise in popularity in this draft. We look at ETC and Uther. Both have a hard form of CC, very reliable, and also they are not Tyrael Genji. Both teams are so good with Tyrael Genji, but will often pick it in the second phase. And you very rarely have seen so far someone saying like, oh yeah, I'll first pick Tyrael by himself. I'll first pick Genji by himself. So there's so much unpredictability in these drafts from both sides. It's really interesting to get into soon.
Yeah, so we're gonna head into our first draft in just a bit. Also from a ban pattern perspective, we have seen that change slightly. We have 4 heroes that are currently dominating the first ban. ETC, of course, very high up. Tassadar is always a high ban, no matter what tournament you go to. And then we have Genji and Abathur. So those 4 have by far the highest ban rate that we see in the tournament thus far. That might be changed now a bit since the teams are preparing very well against each other and we see more targeted bans coming in, not so much only addressing the meta. And let's not forget that with the live patch just being out and the team still being pretty new to it, it also will see a slight shift in meta that could influence those bans as well.
Yeah, just 1 week ago, Rhaegar was still up there in the first ban, first pick ratio, and now he has pretty much been replaced by Tyrael. Dignitas, when they're looking at Ballistics and they're evaluating the threat levels of Ballistics, it must certainly be on the foremost of their mind to consider SCSC. His Vala, his Genji, and his Zeratul play are formidable, but you can't deal with all of those in the first ban or first pick phase. Genji is a popular takeaway pick for Dignitas, whereas Vala and Zeratul probably did not rank among first ban, first pick. So SCSC may want to pick up that hero for himself early on in the draft for Ballistics.
Yeah, there's definitely an expected focus, honestly, again, when it comes to the priority that we see on the side of Ballistics for sure. The impact that he has for the team is absolutely insane. When we're heading into the maps, on the other hand, we have Warhead and Braxis both banned out. Not really a big surprise here. Dignitas, on the other hand, they pick Infernal Shrines now. And that is our start off into the match here itself. So I would not mind this match going the 5 maps once again. So I would actually expect that we're going to see most of the maps in the pool at this point. At least I hope for that.
In fact, I insist on it, Calder.
Yeah, pretty much.
We insist on it.
I want to see another 5-mapper, and then if we get a repeat of the previous series that they played against each other, I'm going to leave the stage as a happy panda.
Even though your team would be eliminated and you would have a career final. Anyway, this was the 3rd map in the previous series that they played, and Ballistics came out on top. A key point was Zeratul, SC for Ballistics in that final slot. Not surprised to see these 2 bans in the first slot, ETC and Tyrael. Genji first pick, no surprise either. This was going to be the most hotly contested assassin between the 2 teams, and they're going very rapidly indeed.
Yeah, at this point, Dignitas, I would have been shocked to not see Tyrael banned out. After the success that KSV Black had with the Tyrael ban against Ballistics, you at least gonna try what is happening if we do the same thing now. Arthas is once again extremely interesting because that is exactly what we've seen from Dignitas against Fnatic, a much higher priority on Arthas. And after we came into the live patch, they played Arthas 4 times and they won every single game with him. So this is going to be their next attempt to still maintain that 100% win ratio. And I'm really curious to see how they're going to close out the draft because they've been favoring heavy frontline compositions a lot recently.
And Dignitas, I just talked about what would they be afraid of from Ballistics, including things like Genji. Now they no longer have to be afraid of Zeratul, probably. It's still possible, but usually SC is on both the Genji and the Zera. One thing that I feel like they don't have to be afraid of is Hooligan's Muradin. I feel like slightly this has been the weak point for both Ballistics and Hooligan. While Hooligan looked amazing on Tyrael and very effective on ETC, his Muradin hasn't had the same threat level. So I feel like Dignitas can already be satisfied that the draft has taken this particular route. ETC and Tyrael ban, and then picking up the Arthas for themselves.
We actually have a bit of a game changer here on the other hand. Malfurion being picked and also very high up in the draft. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what they're going to pair that with. Muradin taken, Genji as well, and the Genji pick is pretty much expected, but at the same time it's also handicapped by Lucio on the other side. So we are going to see that interplay between Lucio trying to save his sound barrier up to the point where Genji uses his Dragon Blade. We've seen KSV Black actually play around that problem yesterday extremely well, always threatening one hero, forcing Lucio to drop the sound barrier, and then Genji went in. Reset in particular had absolutely perfect timing, waiting for his chance and then capitalizing on it. That's something that we're going to see Ballistic try now as well. Zeratul even banned out, so that's Dignitas showing a lot of respect for the Zeratul play that came out of Ballistics in previous series, and they definitely did their homework.
And I also feel like it makes sense in this particular case. While I wouldn't have feared a Zeratul in this draft progress so far after Genji, with Malfurion coming out, Zeratul and Malf are a very heavenly pairing. You do the Void Prison, you lay down the lawn underneath it, and then not Tranquility. Tranquility! No, then the Twilight Dream.
That's exactly what you want. You just need to make sure that you time Tranquility properly
right.
with a Void Prison being released.
No,
they'll never see that coming.
Twilight Dream to follow up on the Void Prison, slightly more shocking than the Trank, and then of course the whole team is silenced. And you said, Dignitas has been running heavy melee compositions.
Yeah.
Twilight Dream is fantastic against it, and with VP it can be utterly fearsome. And it should be noted that although Dignitas lost Infernal Shrines against Ballistics, they were doing really even until SCAC made an individual outplay on Zera, which should have led to 1 death, but led to the entire death of the entire Dignitas roster, as they all tried to peel for each other in an ill-conceived attempt to save one person in that top left fort, if you remember that.
Yeah. And now for Dignitas, what are they going to head into? We need still the damage output on their end. We still have a fair amount of really good damage dealers out there. Greyman is available. You can still go into Vala if you want to. We've seen Poik on a lot of mages as well. I talked to him earlier. He's, by the way, not nervous. So all the European fans are going to be pretty happy to hear that. But I want to see what the second tank is. Because so far, they played a lot where they were trying to combo Arthurs with ETC. They can't do that anymore since ETC is banned out. The Haka is an option for them, but we've also seen them with Stitches, for example, which especially put a lot of problems onto Fnatic. Now that might be the Fnatic special, since Fnatic seems to be pretty vulnerable to that. And as we say that, Dignitas now with the expected Greymane pick and the Haka for the side lane.
Yeah, I think Stitches was very instrumental in Dignitas beating Fnatic yesterday, but at the same time, it really does fit beating Fnatic with it.
Yeah.
Since Fnatic are more passive until they jump the gun, they aren't, let's say, like a crazy team, they wait. And so Stitches really punishes that waiting and poke style, and it would not be as effective against Genji. Either Genji, Muradin, like jump in, or Ballistics' style in general. Yesterday in Ballistics versus KSV, it was full-blown team fighting all the time. It was actually really crazy how chaotic it was, and Stitches wouldn't do as much there.
Now with the last pick on the side of Dignitas, they can still flex at this point. For Ballistics, it's going to be... My question is, what are they going to pair with Malfurion here? Because it's not really a hero that we have seen a lot in this tournament, and normally when he makes an appearance, it's more so on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
I think Karazim probably here.
Yeah. Malfurion is something that especially Europe has been playing a lot, and mostly it's because you're trying to get the value with wave clear as well. Leoric now for the side lane, and Gul'dan as the last pick. Solo heal Malfurion. Now, Ballistic has played a lot of solo healers after the patch kicked in. They only started to play some double healer compositions against KSV Black, especially when they were heading into a double support Vala, for example. But right now they're committing to Malfurion with his heal over time in this setup. And I mean, I have to ask the question, do you think there's a chance we're actually going to see Tranquility, as crazy as it might sound, as a solo heal Malfurion?
Well, you're against 3.5 melee. Lucio is kind of close, so Twilight Dream does have a lot of value, but I think this is one of the better Tranquility compositions, to be honest.
I mean,
I still think we probably won't see it, but
probably not, yeah.
I think there is a reason for it. Let's just describe to you guys how unusual this is. Malfurion dropped off entirely when the new patch hit in the bracket phase. Not even as a second support, let alone as a solo support. And his healing style for Genji is far from perfect. You don't have cleanse, you don't have the burst protection. I mean, this is a very big gambit by Ballistics.
It's a really huge change here. And Dignitas, they finish it off with Falstad now being taken as well. So at this point, they have a disengage, of course, with Mighty Gust. They have also a second global that they add to the equation now, which means that in a late game scenario where the forts are taken off the map, Dignitas can actually really well play around Ballistics and try to find value on the lanes and maybe threaten a keep and force their opponent back. So an interesting draft to start the first game off with.
And then you have Leoric kind of to fulfill that possibly double laning phase for Ballistics, the double laning wave clear duty with Neil Peasants. Gul'dan and Leoric haven't been played all that much by a wide variety of teams, and now Ballistics using both of them here in the same draft with a solo support Malfurion. If Ballistics' goal was to surprise Dignitas, I think they certainly succeeded with that. But Genji is going to have to be careful. No cleanse, no burst protect. If he gets caught by an Arthur's Howling Blast and a Greymane damage and the Dahaka isolation or drag tongue, he could be in a world of trouble. With only really Gul'dan and Malfurion's double silence being able to stop that from killing him.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how exactly Malfurion is going to work out for Ballistics, since as we said, this is something a bit unexpected. Once I saw the hero, I was convinced they would head into a second support setup here. But they are deciding to play him as a solo, and it's going to be curious if they have success with it. Dignitas looked very strong, well coordinated yesterday too, so if they can translate that in today's match, then they should be able to put a lot of pressure on the Ballistics, and I'm not sure if Malfurion can really deal with this, since of course the one thing that he lacks is that burst heal.
And I think what we're going to be seeing is a very different clash of styles between these two teams. If you just compare Dignitas versus Fnatic, low death count, passive style, very macro oriented, and not passive in a bad way, and actually not even truly passive, but maybe if all you're looking for is team fights, it will feel passive. Dignitas played the macro game phenomenally, whereas Ballistics showed a great display of mechanics, micro and team fighting ability. It was chaotic, but they managed that chaos very well, but they were aggressive. So if Ballistics is going to take this game, they'll probably take it by storm, catching a few people off guard, killing them here and there, whereas if Dignitas wins, they'll probably avoid all the ganks by Ballistics, play it safely, use their globals to gain global and structural advantage.
Hooligan at least seems to be pretty happy and very enthusiastic about heading into the first map here. Now, of course, given the map, there's also a few additional advantage that we are seeing on the side of Dignitas, especially with Arthas and the lockdown he provides. The presence alone on the shrine. And let's not forget about Lucio as a big game changer here, since we are seeing quick rotations between lanes. And Arthur's main problem is mobility. Once that Lucio mitigates that to an extent, you become even more a threat to your opponent's team. And also in this particular setup that we're seeing right now, I still want to highlight that we have in both cases the teams running a solo support composition. So none of the teams heads into the double support. And overall, it also reflects the win ratio of the tournament. We have roughly the same amount of games played with solo support and double support. And so far, the solo support matches have usually ended with a victory for the team that was running it. More so than the double support, at least.
Looks like the design philosophy is working out, at least for now. That solo support should be strong as well. And those double silence combinations by Ballistics is really good against double support as well. Ballistics here in the blue on the left. Hailing from Korea. Got knocked to the lower bracket by KSV. Here they are.
And the interesting part is actually that Malfurion is already starting to show a little bit what they are waiting for here. With Shando's Clarity taken as a level 1 talent, you will be able to just constantly supply mana thanks to Innervate. The cooldown reduction is going to help a lot in this case for them to keep them in the fight a little bit longer, maybe not having to resort to go back to the fountain and tap. So overall sustain, if they don't heavily engage, is definitely something that they can utilize, or at least they hope to utilize. We're going to find out if they actually can pull that off.
And it's also that cooldown reduction for Gul'dan, spamming those spells, getting his quest quicker, more corruption, more Fell Flames.
That Malfurion pick is definitely something that I want to see how much they can do with that. If it works, it would be absolutely beautiful, but I can also see that really heavily backfire.
Yeah, exactly. Dignitas will have to have a good lockdown chain in order to kill people off. And they also need to work around the heroics of Ballistics. Horrify is going to be the big game changer here, whereas for Dignitas probably it will be both Sound Barrier and Mighty Gust that will need to disengage from bad fights. Lockdown here on Hooligan. Jumps away.
Hooligan gets out. His performance in the last series against Dignitas, there were a couple of moments where he was heavily criticized, and rightfully so. A little bit of nerves maybe also playing a role there, especially as we headed into that last map of Battlefield of Eternity. But the question is, how will he perform today? Is he going to once again show us his haymaker at some point, or will it be Avatar throughout the series? In this match in particular, on this map, I would expect him to go into Avatar, just simply because of Malfurion being the only healer in the setup. So I would expect him to go for a little bit more of self-sustain for himself. Still committing to the extra damage on the level 1 talent, by the way, so very much down what we've seen from the Korean teams here.
And last time he went for Perfect Storm, he also got Haymaker, and he was also the second warrior, so you never know, he might just have damage written on his mind. You saw that look of extreme confidence as the game loaded up.
I mean, there's always an argument to be made that if you're up against an Arthas, it can be advantageous to go into Haymaker, because once he pops army, you simply remove him from the fight. You don't have to use it as an aggressive tool, you have the option to also use it defensively. But given that you have a Malfurion solo, I would really advise against going Haymaker here. I feel he would be too squishy, especially with Greymane probably heading into a Cursed Bullet in the setup.
We see both teams contesting the shrines. Very even so far. Leoric and Falstad matched at the top in the one-on-one, as Snitch continues to push on that Falstad. Jongha defending.
Which is actually also quite interesting, since you would expect Dehaka to be the one matching into Leoric, but in this setup Falstad does way better, and Dehaka provides more value on the shrine itself. So already a very nice change on the side of Dignitas that helps them to get the lead in the minions. They're looking strong here. Nice dodge on the side of Wooby as well. And they are able to grab the first Punisher. We also see, by the way, one of the additional synergies that we have on the side of Ballistics. A Stormbolt followed up immediately by a Root, and then Gul'dan can, of course, try and capitalize on it with Corruption. So that's something to watch out for in the later stages of the game as well.
Interestingly, Gul'dan goes for improved life tap. Having bonus mana every time he uses life tap, that means he needs to use it less frequently. That means he gets to keep his health count up. Combined with Malfurion's mana talent as well, Shando's Clarity, Gul'dan will be life tapping far less, and this keeps him safer. But what he doesn't have is the lane minion sustain. You can click 2 minions, kill them instantly. Works on catapults as well. Falstad goes down to Genji. Nice play by SCSC, I guess. We didn't see it, but good job by him.
Yeah, he gets a kill at the top, and when we talk about Malfurion, we have him with the Luden's Grace now, so you get the increased range, which is fantastic for what I said earlier. Oh,
wow.
SC with another kill, but can he get away? There's the heal, and he gets out. Once again, he is providing to be the playmaker for his team. Coming back to the point, though, Luden's Grace is working really well when you're attempting to follow up stuns from Muradin, for example, with roots to lock the target down even further, which would allow Gul'dan to get his damage in. And so far, it looks like it's working out for them. SC putting a lot of pressure onto the solo lane, as he usually does with Genji, trying to jump these lanes. And the 3-man that we're seeing now down here is starting to heavily pressure the lane, and that's something that Whoopi, especially since he's of course the only defender on the lane, is not being able to deal with.
Yeah, and he also doesn't get emotional about it. Whoopi is very good at recognizing when he should provide a token defense and when it's better for him just to chill out, wait for Essence, heal up, and just really play it safe. Now, everything good that happened so far for Ballistics is off the back of SCSC's Genji. 2 kills by himself. Zelia there, who was trying to peel for Arthas. He's just been doing fantastic, and this is why he's the man to look out for.
Yeah,
in the times where SCSC was on second support, I wonder why Ballistics did that. We talked about it a lot as commentators, but maybe SDE also likes to play Assassin, and this is why sometimes SC doesn't get to have his way.
Yeah, that would be a really awkward reason, though, because their win ratio drops heavily when they don't have SC on one of the big playmakers.
Could be an ego thing.
Yeah, it could definitely be. We don't know, and it's super interesting. I was very shocked when they switched their lineup up again after when we saw them heading into KSV Black. The second shrine is active now, and we're seeing both of the teams heading for it. More so Ballistics, since Dignitas is starting to spread out onto the lanes. And of course at this point I have to actually say that Ballistics is doing fairly well with their setup here. Once again we have a bit of pressure onto Gul'dan, but he's able to move out of the Howling Blast range. Hooligan is yielding this spot to JPL, who moves in with Arthas.
Ballistics misses part of the wave on top, quickly sent Leoric to soak it out as Dignitas took a small experience lead. And Dignitas continues to provide a token resistance here, slowing down Ballistics, forcing more people to come over here. But ultimately, Dignitas does not have a realistic hope to steal this shrine away. They just want to provide this resistance to force all 5 of Ballistics to come here. And it was successful. And now we'll be on Dahaka, Snitch on Falstad, North and South are able to gain additional experience, giving Dignitas level 10 and allowing for some potential cool plays. For example, Falstad flying in during a gust when this Punisher is dropping low.
Nice flank here by Hooligan, looking for an opportunity after the Punisher stuns out. Doesn't really get a lot out of it, but it's still a nice attempt here and always hoping for the option. Now we have the level 10 on the side of Ballistic, and he hits a bit faster. They haven't lost experience, and they get a kill off it immediately. Great action here from Leoric. He went into Entomb this game, gets the lockdown against Greymane, and with also with Twilight Dream being used right away, there was just no chance for escape. Good kill here for Ballistics, and a very successful first Punisher for them, making sure that they get even a 4th out of it.
Yeah. Used a little bit more than they needed to. The Entomb pretty much condemned Poik already, as Sound Barrier was not available yet. But Ballistics wanted to make sure they would rather use 3 heroics and confirm the kill than maybe use 2 and flounder and let Poik get away. Still, that's a 50-second cooldown right now in Twilight Dream that Dignitas can use to leverage around and to push around their weight a little bit on the map. Stealing this camp, for instance.
Zhongha at the top, already looking to see if maybe Snitch rotates down. I love Snitch positioning right now. Snitch is super safe with his pathing on the map at this point and is taking no chances. If he would have walked straight down into the mid lane with his false set, he would have very likely died to Genji. So that was a great move here by Dignitas.
But SCSC is still sharking around, only about 1.5 screen away from Falstad, waiting for Snitch to make an over-aggressive play.
Also, we're seeing at the same time something I wanted to point out a bit earlier already. On level 7, Lunar Shower taken from Malfurion. I'm pretty sure that with a different healer setup on the side of Dignitas, Strangling Vines would have become a great option for Ballistics. But in this particular case, Strangling Vines just doesn't give you enough value, since it only reduces the healing. And Lucio doesn't really have that burst heal. His Sound Barrier is, of course, providing a shield here. And so since they also run a solo support over a double support setup, we don't get to see that. Lunar Shower instead is going to provide them some extra damage. Talking damage, here comes once again an attempt to take down Hooligan, but a nice Entomb actually, buying him a little bit of time after we've seen the isolation hit on him. Hooligan gets out, and now they attempt to re-engage by Ballistics. It's a kill-for-kill trade though, since Hooligan gets dragged in again, but Arthas has also fallen, and Ballistics still on the chase. But with the help of Lucio, Dignitas can escape.
Very interesting fight there. Both frontliners fall for either side after using their survivability. The Mighty Gust was interesting. It hit only Genji, arguably the most threatening of threats, but it pushed him away and it allowed for both teams to re-engage, as Snitch was rather far away. Still, all heroics used, one apiece, and Dignitas has to give up the Punisher on account of being down a talent.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried right now for Dignitas, because this is really one of those moments on Infernal Shrines where Ballistics is going to try and maintain that lead in experience and just take one objective after another. They of course have to make sure that they snowball it into level 16. It's not going to be easy necessarily, since Dignitas is also not too far behind them, but it's always that danger that you run into when you're playing this map. Nice attempt by Whoopi also, just sitting there at the top, seeing if he has an opportunity to go for Genji, and Genji actually starts walking in, but isolation does not hit, since SC is choking just a little bit before he moves into the bush.
Yeah,
didn't face check it.
People do this on purpose. Show yourself around the bush to bait out skill shots, even if you don't know for sure if there's someone there. If they are there, they may just be anticipating linear movement out of you, so it is perfectly possible. I wouldn't put it beyond SCSC to recognize Whoopi missing on the map.
I would actually say that was 100% on purpose. The way that he moved there, just side dodging a little bit and baiting that out, that was incredibly well done. He could have moved straight into that, and if he would have, if that would have been a straight line, he would have been dead for sure.
Yeah, it was perfectly aimed for that trajectory.
Nice aggression here from the side of SC. Does not get locked down, so a little bit aggressive with this move, but still had his trade up as well, so can easily move out. We have still that level lead for Ballistics. They are one level away from 16. And here's where the problem comes into play. We mentioned it as the last Punisher was captured, but now Ballistics is in a situation where if they gain experience, they should hit level 16 around the time that the next shrine is activated on the map. And then Dignitas will have to see if they can maybe get some XP with a double global and close that gap quickly enough that they contest the objective, or Ballistics might get either a free Punisher or at least a lead in the minion stacks.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dignitas is trying to force a fight here. They're not getting it, and they made an investment being here. Genji solo laning middle, Leoric bottom. This small lead that Ballistics had of a level is now increasing. And you see Whoopi and Snitch finally defending middle and bottom lane and getting a bit of their own XP. By the time the next Punisher comes out, Dignitas will be maybe, what, 15.5? Yeah,
something like that. So they have a chance of hitting 16 while it's still active, but they should fall behind in the stacks. It's also pretty transparent that right now Ballistics is playing the map very well. Despite Dignitas having the two globals, they're the ones who heavily push out the lanes, which of course provides them with a fair amount of vision, and they know very well what's going on the map right now. 16 has hit for Ballistics, so at this point they're in a fantastic spot. Dignitas is going to try and close that experience gap as fast as they can, but especially the 16 power spike is pretty solid here for Ballistics, Gul'dan in particular. But this is right now Ballistics wants to fight, and Dignitas is just trying to stay on the map so that they can get the experience. And here we have the situation that we alluded to a little bit earlier with the shrine now spawning.
And I'm expecting Ballistics to delay the capture of this bottom impaler. They may not necessarily do it, but if they delay it for just a bit, as they're still capturing it, they don't delay it. Actually, the timing just about lines up. Would have liked to see maybe 5-second delay. Falstad, he's going to try and clear this before the Punisher. Right as level 16 is reached, he will still be busy with that. And ultimately, when you are ahead, this is the way to stay ahead. You don't just say, oh, we're both 16 now, too bad, we're going to take a 50-50 fight. No, you make sure that you manipulate the map in such a way that your opponent is in a catch-22. Isolation misses, Hooligan jumps away. Whoopi loses an important cooldown.
Yeah, but here comes the drag, and nobody's helping out Hooligan yet. Here the Keem finally comes in. 17 stack advantage on the side of Ballistics. Dignitas did a great job soaking 16, but they have fallen behind as we expected. They still needed to make the rotation into the middle of the map. But by now, with that lead, they should be able to use also Innovate on Malfurion, thanks to Shando's Clarity, to give a bit more AoE to Gul'dan, who goes in. Here comes the Sound Barrier. Dignitas is trying to go for it. The problem is the cooldown doesn't really help too much, but here comes a great Entomb once again. Good move by Falstad, immediately using the Gust, but that's a lot of cooldown cooldowns down on both sides now. And I think in this situation, the position of Ballistics becomes better and better, just simply because SDE can put so much damage into the choke points around the shrine.
Yeah, and Twilight Dream and Dragon Blade are still available. Gul'dan finished his corruption, if I'm not mistaken. This entire fight took place while bottom Impalers were still pushing for Ballistics, so Dignitas is now forced to defend this, and the Punisher goes to Ballistics.
Now this would have been changed if the isolation earlier hits Hooligan, because he was very far out and they were trying to come in from several angles. If he dies, then it's a different ballgame, but right now Ballistics is pushing through the mid lane and they are doing well here. Gul'dan has such an impact and Dignitas has problems getting close to him. SC still has the Dragon Blade up, as we said before, and Sound Barrier's down for another 20 seconds. Another Entomb hits. Wooby is under a bit of pressure, not too much just yet. And of course, Leoric always trying to reduce the damage of Pulse and Greymane down. But the drag is in!
Beautiful drag tongue at maximum range there. The Haka using the elongated tongue. The gust blaze comes in. Gul'dan in a compromised position. JPL moves in. Twilight Dream with the peel. Life drain, but Gul'dan goes down. In comes the Sound Barrier. Dignitas in a massive turnaround.
At this point, Poik might still fall. Can they get the counter kill? It doesn't look likely. The Stormbolt misses and jumps in again. Poik is just escaping over and over again. Gul'dan wants the kill as Muradin falls. It looks like we're going to see the team wipe in favor of Dignitas. Poik survives, not nervous today, and Ballistics gets wiped off the map after a fantastic drag on the side of Wooby, eliminating SC. Perfect play here, and at that point, great fly-in from Snitch, forcing the fight, and Ballistics wiped off the map.
Yeah, that's how you mighty gust engage when you are already in a 5 versus 4 situation. Beautiful engage here, as you can see that Gul'dan gets cornered. Poik, how did he survive? Sound Barrier was crucial. Zelia with the perfect timing.
That was really, really well done here. And with that insta-kill against Genji, there's no cleanse available, there's very few tools to save him, there's no Divine Shield, no Rega Ancestral, very few panic buttons like a Kerosene Palm that could have been used here. So once the drag connects, it's a really disadvantageous position for them.
Wooby
and with
the
this
playmaker, man. Crazy.
Yeah, with this move, Dignitas gains an entire level on Ballistics. They are a level ahead at this point now, and this is going to start and hurt for Ballistics a lot. Now, there's a couple of saving graces for the Korean team. They still hold the fort in the mid and at the bot lane, whereas Dignitas has basically lost all 3 forts. The one at the top lane has just a few hit points left that keeps it in the game. But this is a really, really annoying position for Ballistics to be in right now. You play against 2 globals. You always wanted to just snowball this a little bit. You try to stay ahead. You try to snowball to the next talent. And now all of a sudden against a double global, they're also behind in experience to an extent where Dignitas is very likely to hit 20 when it comes to a fight on the shrine. It's not going to be easy for Ballistics to react to it, and I'm curious to see what decisions they are going to make now.
Well, they'll need to make use of their forts as a buffer for defense. Unfortunately for Ballistics, the shrine is at the top, where they already lost the fort. That means that if they lose the Punisher, it represents a keep loss. One cool thing Ballistics could do is to do an attack on the middle fort, using Genji and Leoric as resources to pressure on the mid keep since it's already exposed.
Leoric is putting the pressure onto the bot lane right now. They're trying to force a reaction out of Dignitas, and they also want level 20. Dignitas, on the other hand, is already working on a potential push for game.
Yeah.
Taking down the wall at the top would allow them to not only go for keep, but with a kill, maybe even go for core. And that's a thought process for them. But they still are going to have to react at some point to what Dignitas is doing in the mid and the bot lane. Sorry, what Ballistics is doing at the mid and bot.
Yeah, not surprised by this at all. Absolutely the correct play by Ballistics. Not only have they gathered level 20, but they will probably take down the keep as well. If not actively, then passively with the Impalers.
At this point, Ballistics has 20, so does Dignitas. The more Dignitas loses in the mid and bot lane here, the more all-in this last push is going to be at the
they're
top.
Totally all-in now. Like, it's unacceptable to trade keeps when you're ahead in such a fashion.
Nobody stops the portals back. They're going straight for the keep here. Gul'dan is firing away as much as he can. They're going straight for the keep, and they will have it down by the time that the Punisher is there. How is Ballistics able to defend? That's the big question. If a kill happens, that could be it. But here's already Gul'dan using his ult. We have Entomb being used. No Tranquility yet. Arthas is under a lot of pressure, but JPL still alive. Punisher jumping in. They're going for it. And this point might be the kill against Muradin. He gets just barely his avatar off. The first kill is against Falstad, one of the damage dealers. Can they kill Greymane? At this point, Malfurion and Leoric are both down. Dignitas might just have done it, but they are getting low here. SC survives for now. He wants to reset. He goes for his Voselia. He gets the kill. The Punisher is still baited into the middle. This is looking bad for Dignitas at this point.
Finally, the Punisher shrugs off his drunken stupor. He was going for the keep. Now he knows what's the plan. He's going for the core. It's an Arcane Punisher, but SC is just popping off here. Only 2 members of Dignitas are left. Make that 1 plus the Punisher.
The Punisher is going down here. The entire time STE was alive. Wubi is the last man standing. He tries to pull it off. The lasers do the damage. It's not enough. 10%. 10% on the core, and we have Ballistic starting to move through the mid lane. 3 heroes are currently alive. 10 seconds for Falstad. He has Gust up, and we also have Lucio. If 20 seconds, and he's going to be back.
Snitch, good on him for dying so quickly, because he will be back soon.
It was all intentional.
Yeah, it was all planned. Like, if someone is gonna die, might as well be Snitch. You get the Gust, you save the core. I can't believe Ballistics is going for the core. I think this is a big mistake. The game kind of equalized. Now, I get that 10% is a big threat when you're up against Falstad, but...
They have Gul'dan, though. Gul'dan does so much work here. Just look how he chunks down the shields.
But they can Gust... Snitch can Gust someone into a keep.
Oh, there comes the Gust, but the core is down to 70%. They're going for it. Here comes a quick isolation tool, but it's Gul'dan. STE has all the damage, and that's why Snitch flies on him immediately. There's the kill, but it's not enough. Ballistics takes the game, moves in with SC, and they are able to claim victory in game number 1.